Joining me now to discuss is Arizona candidate for U.S. Senate and former adjunct general of the Arizona National Guard, Major General Michael McGuire. Also joining us shortly is former Defense Intelligence Agency intel officer and author of Putin's Playbook, Russia's Secret Plan to Defeat America, Rebecca Koffler. She'll be along to join us here in mere moments, we hope. In the meantime, General McGuire, you and I will start the conversation. Congressional offices are reporting that the Taliban is holding our people hostage. The border's not secure. The economy is faltering. So Biden and his socialists are attacking Texas for protecting our babies. Makes me wish Biden opposed the Taliban as much as he and his party oppose Texans. What is your reaction on this Labor Day?
Well, my reaction is, unfortunately, Chris, as I've said before, President Biden and his administration is derelict in their duty to protect our people and provide that as a primary duty as the chief executive. We saw with the fall of Kabul, when we opened up Bagram and the prisoners were released by the Taliban, we knew there would be problems. We know that we have a porous southern border. I've said it to you before, Chris. It is more easy right now to traffic a young girl into the sex trade in the southwest border in Arizona than it is for you to get lunch in Los Angeles. You aren't serious about protecting your people if that's the way you behave. Add to it, you now have 6,000 of the world's worst terrorists that are looking at this country as a target, and we need to close the border immediately for our safety and security.
Well, as I mentioned at the top, we're seeing more rescue groups going into Afghanistan to rescue Americans that are stranded there, left behind by Biden and his Democrat Socialist Party. They're telling the press that Biden's estimated tally of no more than 200 Americans left behind is way, way low. I spoke with Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson on my radio show earlier today, broke the news to me that he had a team on the ground that helped rescue 4 of his constituents across the border out of Afghanistan. You know, it's hard to imagine how Biden and his party could have failed more spectacularly in Afghanistan. What's your take?
Well, my take is there's a lot of arguments about numbers, but remember, we complied with this artificial deadline that was imposed on us by the Taliban, and we had freedom of movement 8 weeks prior to that. If even one person is left behind, if it was your family member, it would be too many. And this concept of flights being held hostage and others not being allowed to get out safely when we were promised they would be given safe passage is a complete travesty. And it's a proof that the President of the United States does not have the American people's interests first. And I fear that we're going to see broad actions around the world with all kinds of state actors and terrorist groups thinking they can take advantage of this due to weak leadership.
You know, there are reports out there, General, about individuals who were brought in from Afghanistan who didn't have the proper vetting. Some individuals who are identifying themselves as military members said they witnessed individuals being shoved onto aircraft, no vetting. Meanwhile, people with papers, vetted Afghans who had actually really helped us, they were left behind in Afghanistan. How concerned are you that this 120,000 individuals being brought in from Afghanistan, some of them weren't vetted, and that Biden and his team showed their usual care and concern for the safety of Americans, their usual care and concern, their inadequacies they showed in the pullout actually translated into the vetting process, and that we perhaps maybe let in through the front door individuals who are part of the Taliban or ISIS or Al-Qaeda?
Well, Chris, no one should be surprised by this outcome. It was complete chaos at the Kabul airport. You remember the images of people falling off the sides of C-17s, shoving people into these aircraft to get them out as quickly as possible, service animals left behind, citizens left behind, and you're right. It is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for us to adequately vet them because we don't have any paperwork. What's their date of birth? And it's similar to the problem we face at the southwest border. And the truth of the matter is, we cannot adequately protect our citizens and provide security and safety in every community if we can't determine who you are and why you're here, and if you have nefarious intent. And I fear that the Biden administration has put us exactly in that situation.
Right before we hit 9/11. That's just, it's amazing for me to even contemplate. I want to bring Rebecca Koffler into the conversation. Rebecca, welcome. You know, others have said, and I agree, that foreign capitals are running America's government right now as we're speaking, with Biden at the helm. This debacle in Afghanistan was a big win for China and Russia, too, in more ways than one. In the context of your book, just how badly did Biden compromise the safety and security of America to Vladimir Putin's Russia?
Regretfully, Chris, the Biden administration has completely compromised both U.S. interests and a lot of U.S. capabilities, which eventually will be used by the Russians and by the Chinese against our troops and against our interests. Biden administration has ceded control to Taliban and to Russia in China in a very strategic area for the United States.
Rebecca, I want to ask you, too, as you well know, Mr. Biden and his Democrat allies in Congress facilitated the leaving behind of all of these weapons in the hands of the terrorist Taliban. It's bad enough to arm terrorists ahead of the 9/11 commemoration. But as you well know, Russia is also in play. China is also in play with all of that weaponry, all of that technology we left over there. How concerned are you that we just gave a huge boost to Russia's military capability as they reverse engineer some of the weaponry that we left behind there in Afghanistan?
Extremely concerned, Chris. In fact, Russia cannot wait to get its hands on that high-tech weaponry, because one of the things that Russia fears is U.S. military's kinetic superiority, conventional superiority. And because of that, Vladimir Putin has developed a strategy that bypasses that conventional superiority. He developed a new warfare doctrine called controlled instability, with the help of which Russia plans to destabilize the United States. But now, not only they have developed asymmetric tools, President Biden has gifted to the Russians the high-tech know-how that the Russians, as you correctly pointed out, can replicate and eventually use against Americans.
It's like a bad dream. It really is. Every day, a nightmare, rather. It gets worse and worse and worse. Thank you, Major General Michael McGuire and Rebecca Koffler. We appreciate your time here on the Salcedo Show on this Labor Day.